say we're very excited about this one. So every Monday, if you're new to Monday Masterclass, every Monday at noon Central Time, we have masterclass about different things. For a year and a half, we did it with top leaders in our company. Um, for the final quarter of last year, Becky had the genius idea that we would masterclass around the rank of gold, and what that looked like. So if you need to go back and grab those recordings, they're all available to you. And the front side of this year, we're really talking about kind of that plus one, kind of some new ways that we're really growing strong in our company. And last week we were on a cruise. Some of us drop in the chat if you were on the cruise last week, but we were on a cruise that was an earned trip from Plexus and from what we did the final quarter last year. And Becky and I got a chance to just sit and talk to Blake Shaver, who is like, I want you to tell us too, like you started out like at one role in the company, and I think it's kind of like progressed maybe over the last 5 years now, and kind of what that has looked like. But Blake has always been just a very steady person in our company for us to go and say, what about this? Or how does this work? Or I can't believe we're doing this. Or what does this look like? And he's just like with the best personality of just a bunch of women coming at him. He's like, well, let me tell you. And he just stays completely here. And it's a voice of reason so much in our brains when we want to be really dramatic or really, one end or the other on the roller coaster of business. Blake is just steady. So we were all flying back on Friday, and I texted him and was like, what are you doing Monday at noon Central Time? And he agreed to come on and talk to us specifically about, he is the brains behind what is happening in March. He's the brains really behind all of all the things that we love the most that happen every single month with incentives and promotions, focused on us and really growing our businesses. And so I want him to tell you a little bit about why, how, all the things. But Blake, introduce yourself to the field, because I think a lot of these people don't get as much of a FaceTime with you as a lot of us do.
Yeah, Andrea, thank you. And thanks for the invite. It's good to see you again. Long time no see, Becky, and those who were on the cruise. Dave, I think you were on the cruise too, right? So it's good to see you all again. And I think what you guys are doing on these weekly calls is just awesome. I think anytime you can get together as a community and really discuss strategy and discuss how to win is important. And the more that we can support you guys there, the better. My name is obviously Blake Shaver. I'm the VP of Sales Operations here, which is just a fancy way of saying we kind of do all the things. My team manages all of our contests, all of our incentives and promotions. We do a lot of the heavy lifting when it comes to IT for things like virtual office, new tools and resources like the Plexus Go app. Anything within that realm that we support kind of somewhat comes under my team's umbrella. But we partner very closely with Joy Russell and our field development team, and then also our marketing team. And nothing that gets to you guys doesn't get to you before it goes through the advisory board, support from the advisory board, and other diamonds to ensure that data is on track with what we feel will be impactful. But more importantly, just something that you guys feel like you could actually take and run with. And when Andrea reached out and said, "Hey, can you come on our masterclass call and really just talk through incentives, how to use them, etc." I love these kinds of conversations because, you know, you can either do one of two things. You can either just jump to what is the offer, or you can learn how to use that offer as your hook. And I think one thing that we're really trying to kind of double down on in 2025 as we all get loud and we talk about getting into momentum and really getting our businesses going in the trajectory that you want them to be, you have to lead with what we sell 365 days a year, which is not an incentive, it's not a promotion, and it's not a contest. I think when you look at what we just did at Rising Leaders Retreat, that is a huge moment to bring our One Plexus community together. A lot of the individuals on this last trip, that's their first trip ever with Plexus. So what better way to really cast vision and show them that we are far more than just a product that shows up at their door than to get them and expose them to the community. But more importantly, come out of that event with a business, led mindset of how do I grow and earn the next contest, or how do I grow and finally reach that rank or that vision that's been on my vision board for the last few months. And where we have to get together with groups like this and leaders like yourselves, I know we have multiple jewels on this call, is to really ask yourself, how do I, as a jewel and as an established leader, leverage all of the things to serve one purpose, which is growing my business and growing my community? And I know sometimes it can feel a little overwhelming, especially when the human brain naturally just wants to jump to solutions. And then you find yourself kind of on that hamster wheel of solutioning all these potential ideas, but you haven't actually decided what am I solving for? And then you're in this wheelhouse of like, well, I have 100 things to do. I feel super busy, but then my numbers and my points make it look like I didn't do anything at all. And it's that same idea that like when you over communicate, you've communicated so much that you've actually communicated nothing. And some of the things that we've been doing with the FDM group and other diamonds who have really wanted to dig in and kind of not necessarily rebuild because that's not the right terminology, but just get back into growth is really just stepping back and celebrating the work you've done because you guys are all on this call as leaders for the work you have done. So nothing you have done is technically wrong, but your businesses are good size now. You're not the team, you're not the gold team that could take your whole team out to lunch anymore. You're huge, right? You guys have width, you have depth, you have culture and community that you have to nurture and take care of, but you also still have to be able to identify if I'm going to pour into my team this month, where am I pouring into and why? The why of the conversation is the important piece that you have to be able to identify as a leader now. I said some of this a little bit at Rising Leaders Retreat this past week, but if you were to strip away the idea of our industry, like direct sales entirely, right? Every strong business model, whether it's brick and mortar, retail, food, it doesn't matter. Every business model that is successful and has long term success and growth does three things consistently really well. They consistently introduce their product or their whatever they're selling to new people on a regular basis. They ensure that those new people want to use their product more than once. And as they use their product more than once and have either success in terms of like, hey, my wife and I always do date night at this restaurant because the service is exceptional and the food is to die for. That is a repeat customer. That same mindset at Plexus would be, I absolutely love the taste and the results I've gotten on this product. And the community I have with Andrea is a community I never would have thought I'd have otherwise. That is success with a customer, which then makes that person far more likely to want to share and do referrals of that product and or service with other people. So those three things, constantly having new people come in, having success for those customers that come in to the point that they want to share that success with others is how every core fundamental piece of a business thrives and succeeds long term. And the word consistent there is what I want you guys to remember. Because as I start to break down how I would challenge you guys to look at a month and then choose which incentives or promotions or offers you want to use, it's because you have identified where you want to win in your business and you've already chosen how you're going to use the offers to help you win versus the idea that I believe, and I'm just saying this from a outside or perspective looking in, is we spend far too much time trying to understand how do I use them all instead of just understanding how do I use the two that I actually need. Does that make sense? Because if you use those two you actually need really well, you'd see far better success than you trying to communicate all of the things when really your team may want to know two. How many of you are from the West Coast? Anybody on here from the West Coast? I'm only using West Coast because of the burger chain In and Out. If you don't live here, you probably have been there. But they do, I mean, could you talk about an absolute machine of a model? That place has like three menu options and it's all cheeseburger and fries. You're just picking your poison of which way you want it served, right? And they crank out orders every single day. There's some locations here in Arizona that do well over 10,000 orders a day, but it's because they have figured out what their customer wants and they execute it really, really well. You don't question a thing. And so you have to cultivate that same idea within your teams and in your business to say, if I'm Plexus weight loss, if I'm Plexus gut health, whatever your team identity is, you've got to hone in on that identity really well and then just leverage the offers that are out there that help you elevate that identity versus trying to make sure you conform to everything else that everyone else is doing. Does that make sense? And so when we look at this from a leader's perspective, again, I don't know how many, Andrew, how many jewels do you think are on today?
Let me count real fast. One, two, three, four, five, six. I'm like trying to go through.
Great.
Okay, we have somewhere. We'll probably have seven. Okay, yeah, we have somewhere almost 10.
That's great. Well, I'm only asking that because really jewel rank aside or not, a really healthy way to look at your overall points for the month, right? Regardless of where you're trying to go or where you sit today, is I want you to remember the idea of a 30 and a 70 split, meaning 30% of your points and then 70% of your points, and being able to identify where those percentages are coming from within your organization. Now, this percentage is weighted a little heavier for jewels just because of the size of their organization. But even if you're a senior gold or a ruby or a senior ruby, these percentages still hold true. And the reason they hold true is because if you can maintain a business or grow a business where 30% of your points are coming from your first four levels, and then 70% of your points are coming from your bottom three, so 5 through 7. The reason you want to focus on that analogy is because what's in your control. When you start to get real width and depth, that 70% is going to come from your 5, 6, and 7s because of the strength of your first four. Meaning, if as a leader, you are really pouring into your first four levels and you're developing new leaders consistently within your first four levels, the duplication and the ripple effect of that first four is going to bring you your 5, 6, and 7. Not saying don't talk to your 5, 6, and 7, but if you want to make your 5, 6, and 7s worth more, you have to start with your first four versus trying to say, how do I talk to everyone? Talk to the group you know you have to have plugged in order to have the bottom three to begin with. Does that make sense? So no matter where you're at in your business, just think, where do I have the most control, for the lack of better terms, or influence? That's going to be your first four. Now, this is before you play the game of like, well, Dave's actually my 6, but he compressed to my 4. I'm just saying face value, your first four levels, right? If you have a lot of first four levels who are being compressed up, that's an indicator that you need to start building your first four again. And that's not a bad thing. No, no long-term successful business ever technically stops building or stops innovating. No business opens the doors for the first dime, checks the wind direction, and goes, man, I hope they show up today. They go out and get them. They go out and market to them. They go out and sell to them. They bring them in. And when they bring them in, they keep them. And that's what we're doing every single day. So, regardless of your rank, whether you're a diamond or you're a gold, it does not matter. The method to success is the same. You have to consistently enroll, retain, and grow your pipeline of customers if you want long term growth, which now brings me into the incentives for March. Obviously, March is big. We always kind of make March a big month. It's a huge month to acquire new customers and fill your funnel. We're doing it in a more dramatic fashion in the month of March, but in reality, these are still the key income producing activities you should be doing every single day of every single month. March just makes it a little bit more fun, right? Where I would challenge you guys to do this, when I say the right way, I'm going to say the more effective way, is instead of leading with the prize, lead with what you sell 365 days a year. So you'll notice some of the marketing assets we've produced don't have the photo of an iPad, a watch, or a red light therapy mask on them anywhere. And that is by design because we don't sell those three things. We sell gut health and we sell an opportunity, right? So what we want to lead with, and when you start talking about that +1 and that training system, it's the impact of what sharing with others actually has on you as an individual. It just happens that if you do it in the month of March, you also have the ability to earn a limited time offer prize, right? Versus saying share with 6 friends and get an iPad, you should be saying share with 6 friends, create opportunity and income for yourself. And if you do that in the month of March, we're actually going to give you this on top of it, right? So lead with the comp plan, lead with the products, lead what's in it for me as your new business builder, even in April. Not just well, when you do it with March, everybody kills it for March because we all chased an iPad and points are up, everybody's feeling good, and then April comes and we all go, what do I do? Right? That's kind of the chain or that hamster wheel of death, as I like to call it, that we need to break, which is don't just do it for a month because everyone's excited and all the momentum's there. Do it because you have a strategy that says this is the direction I'm supposed to be going, and I'm confident in that direction because I know it's going to solve some problems within my team, or it's going to give some solutions to people that I know have wanted them for a while, right? That's where you see long-term growth. Long-term growth doesn't come from Dave said yes to me once. Long-term growth comes from the fact that Dave said yes to me 2, 3, or 4 times throughout his tenure with us, right? He came back to my restaurant 4 times, not just came in once, said it was okay, and then just doesn't come back, right? We have got to continue to edify the culture that we've had for the last 16, almost 17 years to show people that we're more than product, to show people that we are more than just a network marketing company that claims we pay commissions. We are so much more than that. It is, you can't take it lightly that we've been in business this long. I've been in the industry for 11 years now. And any company that makes it past 5 is worth looking at. Any company that makes it past 10 is legit. The fact that we're going on 17 is no joke, you guys. This industry is pretty cutthroat. It's tough for industries to make or companies to make it. You see a lot of startups that don't make it past 3 years. And I'm a firm believer that Plexus is going on 17 years because of the pride we take in taking care of one another, taking care of our customers. Alec and Tarl have stood their ground firm on who we are and what we do, and we have never wavered from that. And Gene's upholding that same value. So if we continue to hold strong to who we are, it's no it's no doubt that it's funny, how you see like gut health starting to become more and more of the public conversation, yet we've been having this conversation for 16 years. So we already know we have what people are looking for. We just have to be proud and we have to be confident and we have to have conviction in what we're sharing with those people. And what we're sharing with those people is a heck of a lot better than an iPad. So never lose that thought process. So again, when you talk about leading with any incentives or promotions, we could be running 10 things at once. At the end of the day, you should be able to analyze all of those offers, knowing I'm going to use 3 of the 10 because of what my business needs today versus assuming your business needs all of them. Does that make sense? Because it is impossible to say it's a one size fits all approach. When you look at what my team did for the end of February, when we talked to the advisory board and we said, hey, we want to try to do a win back campaign, which is why we brought that save 20 back and then the whole give 25 thing. Those are offers that we should be doing in the background for you guys 24/7. Because if you're focused on those 3 key things, which is bring customers in, retain them, and grow them, let corporate, for the lack of better terms, scrape the bottom of the barrel to see who else we can get to come back and shop. Those aren't offers you should be losing sleep over going, I need to figure out who these people are so I can text them. I'm going to speak some truth here. You can text them, you can cast the net. But like that Save 20 group has had 0 orders in 4 months or more, which means they're probably not going to text you back anyways. If they've already said no to you or if they have decided to just be like, I'm done. Everyone has their reasons. Everyone has attrition. Every business model has attrition. If they're not engaged with you now, just because we sent them an offer and you send them a text doesn't mean they're just going to be back like that. These are offers that by design don't have huge impacts. And I'm not saying that negatively. They're just there to help cast that net and get anybody back that we're willing to do, just like we've seen with site-wide sales that we've done in the past. The second largest purchasing demographic of those sales are zeros because they're coming back for a flash in the pan great month. They're good point boosters, but are we doing that with the intent that Stephanie's now going to buy for the next 4 months? Not necessarily, because that's not the customer that shows that style behavior. We have to focus on the customers that month in and month out are in it to win it, whether that's product results and they just want to be a VIP customer or they want to start to share and be a business builder. So I just ask you guys and challenge you guys that in the month of March, analyze your business, look at where your points are coming from, really reflect on your first 4 levels and ask yourself, how could I have an impact in my first 4, knowing that that's going to cascade down? And whatever you do to fill your funnel in March, know that it doesn't stop in March. Every VIP that you've had join in January and February should have already attended an op call of some degree. Create your systems within the system. That +1 system is great to do the heavy lifting, but it doesn't do all the work for you. It does the work to help pitch the opportunity and pitch the product and start that conversation. But a good thing that I've been working on with Jory and a couple other leaders, and when we talk about this, is let's say Andrea, Becky, and I are all on the same team, right? And our goal is that every new VIP joins one of the op calls within, let's say, 7 days of joining Plexus. I'm just making this up to give you guys an example. So if all 3 of us went out and got 3 new VIPs this month, our goal is to make sure that all 3 of our VIPs join an op call within 7 days. Now we know once, let's say, Kristen, Hannah, and Julia went to the op call that night, we know that as soon as they attend the op call, our follow-up message to them is, hey, what'd you think? If they've already signed up, great. Let's get them to go silver within the next 7 days. Like, what is your strategy behind saying, I got someone to join the call? Now you're cultivating a pipeline of leaders. Now you're starting conversation and you're doing the retention portion of that new person coming in the door. Now you guys can skin this however you want. That's the reason you guys all build your individual businesses. But use the tools and resources to, yes, start the conversation, but it's not they joined the op call, now I'm done. It's not I reached Jewel, now I'm done. Because again, no successful business actually stops building. You're always innovating, you're always building, and you're always kind of in the trenches to some degree. Yes, there's a form of leadership there, but we want to lead with the incentives. We want to lead with the comp plan and our product because that way the incentives never really matter, right? The incentives are a tool and a hook to maybe say, all right, if it's free shipping, that's what helps me just kind of solidify the deal. But I'm not getting DMs or messages because we're offering free shipping. I'm getting messages or DMs because of what the products can do for this individual. And hey, if you buy right now, it ships for free. That's your hook, not what you lead with. Is that making sense? Just like you don't lead with iPads or anything else like that. That's what's in it for our One Plexus community that's already sharing to make it more fun to share. But you don't share because of an iPad. You don't share because of a red light therapy mask. It's just for fun. So don't lose sight of the strategy, how to build the business in the comp plan. Always lead with what you sell 365 days a year because, you know, regardless of LTOs or product launches, those are pieces that are fun. We're still one of the only companies I've seen that have multiple patents on their products that don't waver from their formulas, don't waver from their strategy, and we still deliver results every single day. So let's celebrate the results. If they have results on their products, they're going to want to share. And if they're going to want to share, those are your business builders. And just again, try to focus on that 30-70 split. If 30% of your points are what you're driving, then that 30% is consistently strengthening your 70%. And that's the name of the game. So those are just little tidbits there. I know we don't have a ton of time. I don't want to bore you guys to death, but I'm happy to take questions if you guys have any. It's open floor. Feel free to unmute, or if Andrea, if you've got questions that I wasn't looking at in the chat, I'm happy to answer those.
I have a question real fast. While people start dropping their questions in the chat and or decide they're going to unmute and actually just ask you a question.
Okay.
I believe you're the corporate host on the call tonight. Is that true?
Yeah, that's what they're telling me. I got to
You
be
got a
there.
full day today.
Yeah,
So
I will
tell us
be
a
there.
little bit about that call tonight. Like if people haven't been utilizing the Monday night call, what is it about the call tonight that you feel like that they really should be like how should they be talking
Yeah.
to people about that call? What feels like the real bring in to get people on that call?
Yeah, great question. So the Monday and Thursday night calls, in my opinion, are two very non-negotiables, especially for new people, right? So Monday night is a little bit more focused on the opportunity, aka the compensation plan, but we still talk products tonight. Thursday is much more product focused, but we still talk opportunity. So neither call technically misses a subject, right? I would look at this going, okay, if you already know you have prospects or new VIPs who have already signed up and they're interested in sharing, tonight's the call for them because it really shows the impact financially of what it means to share. We kind of shared some of this at Rising Leader Street too, and you guys have probably seen this in some of the how-to guides or the getting started guides from the system, but really just the power of sharing with your first, let alone 3 people, and what 300 or 500 or $600 could mean to somebody, especially in today's economic climate. I mean, my wife and I just had our first daughter and she's not really totally on solids yet, but there's a budget there. And no one would shy away from an extra $700 a month, right? And that's where you really learn the art of what is it we're selling. We are selling a community, an opportunity, and products that just flat out work. And if you like your results on these products, let me show you how you could do far more than just getting a month's worth of your products paid for, right? It's really how do you effectively cast a vision of like, there's no reason to be skeptical. Every industry has this. Uber has it. DoorDash has it. You refer a friend, you get credit. I mean, the only difference is you're sharing what you love and you get paid for it. So instead of Dave referring me to the steakhouse because it's the best filet he's ever had and he gets no kickback from that, he's referring and getting kickback. I mean, every industry is direct sales to some degree. So tonight's call, you really should be looking at it going, how do I use this call to quote unquote do the heavy lifting, aka cast the vision? But you have to be ready that if you know you're inviting those people to the call and they're attending, what is your follow-up conversation? So my challenge to you guys would be if you have a few people attend tonight's call and they haven't shared for their first time yet, be ready to either call them or text them or be in conversation with them after the call to help them earn their first $300. And their first $300 is going silver. I can guarantee you almost everyone on this call to some degree has created silvers in their sleep at one point or another. And the first step to creating more senior silvers is more silvers. So get them to those first ranks of the compensation plan, but don't let them hit a rank and stop. When I look at it from like the numbers guy, as they like to call me at corporate, our largest bodies of sharers, meaning sheer numbers of people who share Plexus on a regular basis, are the rank of gold and below. And what that tells me is you got a lot of people trying, they're just not advancing much further than gold. Right, wrong, or indifferent. Someone might just be an enrollment monster and they get to gold, or Julia's been trying to get to senior gold for a long time and she's just kind of hovering at gold because maybe she's doing okay on retention, but that she has months where retention is really good and then months where signups aren't as good. We got to be able to step in and help those people truly see success, to see that next rank advancement. And that's where these calls can help, is just really recenter everybody into the non-negotiables, of what makes our compensation plan the best in the industry. But again, it's so much more than just inviting them to the call. You got to be ready to follow up and really bring them through that journey now, because the call is not going to do it for you. Hopefully that answers. And I'm joined by just two of the best tonight with Melissa Darby and the team. So it's gonna be really fun. I'm excited. It's the first one, so hopefully I don't botch it.
We'll all be watching to make sure that you do
Yeah,
everything.
please let me know if I just do absolutely.
I've never been honest with you, Blake. I don't know if I can do it. Um, okay, does anybody have any questions for Blake, especially just around kind of like that growing your team, growing your business, utilizing the incentives well? He's not scary to ask questions to, I promise.
And I'll tell you if I don't know the answer. I really will. Jennifer, thanks for the feedback on the time. I can totally understand that. That's definitely tough. It's pretty late on the East Coast.
Okay, I have a question.
Okay.
Yeah.
You focused a lot on like the 30 and the 70%, but those of
Yep.
us who don't necessarily have levels past 4, what would be your suggestions to set a firm foundation in like a good solid 1 through 4?
No, it's a great question. I actually really appreciate you asking that, Christy. So, Christy's question in terms of just not having 7 paid levels worth of depth yet, you can still somewhat apply that same ratio, Christy, between your first two and your bottom two levels, right? Because no matter what you're driving to cascade down, still that method kind of applies. 30 and 70% might be extreme from a percentages standpoint when you only have 4 levels, but you still want to drive your first two that drive your 3 and 4, right? So it's that ripple effect and how you're leading from top down. And then once you start to have an established business that is both deep and wide, you never want to lose sight of that leadership and you never want to lose sight of that lead by example, meaning you don't actually stop continuing to build levels 1, 2, 3, and 4, because you always want to be continuing that ripple effect of like new energy, new blood in the pipeline, and new people wanting to lead with the product conversation. So I would challenge you to look at your first two, and really everyone on this call could look at their first two or their first four and ask themselves, when's the last time I created a silver, senior silver, or gold in my first 4 levels? If it's been a while, I'd get off this call and make that your March goal. How am I going to generate a new leader, new potential leader in my first four levels? Sarah?
Yeah, I asked a question earlier, but you were talking. But so how would you speak into new people sharing? Because I have one of my new people that, is interested in the business and loves
Yeah,
the products. What would you speak to them in this season?
I love that question. My question to you would be, have you asked them or identified what it is you think you could help them solve for with the business? Is it dollar amount per month? Is it something that they would love to see or personally achieve? Anything like that? You're on mute, Sarah.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about compensation and what that would mean to her. She wants to definitely work on getting her products paid for because she is in love with the products.
Yeah.
And just how would you speak to her about starting out? I mean, I've spoken to her about, let's find some people to try the products, but also just in this season, like what would you speak into a new
Yeah.
person's
Yeah, good questions. And again, I only asked that so that it
inspiration?
can help me tailor a response for you. I'm assuming she hasn't made a share, like a referral yet. She's interested, she just hasn't done any sharing yet. So obviously getting to silver can certainly get the products paid for, right? I would leverage the system and just show her the power of sharing with one and then sharing with two more and how fast you could start to accrue income. And then once she has that success of the first three, that's really where you then have to follow up with her and show her how to do it consistently. And that's where you're going to have to know the individual. And this is how you guys as leaders know all of your individuals. I'll use a story for me when I used to be a personal trainer way before my corporate days. You got to have like a temperature check on every one of your clients or every one of your prospects. You want to have strategy with each one, but you got to know your people and know how far or how aggressive you actually want to push them to get those results. And at the end of the day, everyone wants to see results, but people see results in different ways and different paces. So if she's someone who you think has a strong network and you can be a little bit more aggressive with, then I would say get her to silver and then immediately show her how to get to senior silver quick. Like she's going to want to see results fast, right? Where others might feel like they want results, but then they're skeptic at the same time. So you don't want to try to get them to bite off more than they can chew. Show them what they're getting and how they're winning. An example I'll give you guys, which has nothing to do with selling gut health supplements, but it was a woman that I was training. She came to me as a referral from a client I was training at the time, and she said she wanted to lose weight. Andrew will laugh at this, but I'm the furthest thing from a Dr. Phil, and she basically showed up and wanted me to be Dr. Phil, and I was like, this is not gonna work. And so I just politely told her, I said, hey, I'm gonna give you a refund. I'm just gonna ask that you come back when you're ready. And she was pissed. She basically was like, I just turned her away. I don't want to work with her, yada yada yada. And long story short, she came back 4 weeks later. And she goes, I understood what you were saying and I apologize. And then 6 months later, she lost 100 pounds. And it was all mindset. And some of that mindset was really just getting her to a place where she felt she was ready. But that was also meaning me as a leader being able to understand where she was. And I think a key piece of leadership is having empathy and compassion for people, but you also have to have conviction. Because if you just have empathy and compassion with no conviction, you'll get walked all over all day long. And at the end of the day, people have to know that you're empathetic and that you can lead and you can hear them and you can feel for them, but that you also have what they need to get out of the rut that they're in. And as soon as she came back and said, okay, I'm ready, and she was open minded and ready to listen, what I was able to teach her in terms of how she looked at food, how her relationship with food was, that's what turned her around. It wasn't my service. It wasn't that I gave her a different program than she had the first time. My way of leading as a personal trainer didn't change or adapt to her. she adapted to say, I looked in the mirror and accept, like, if I want this to change and it's my change, let's go. And that's where the light bulb came on. And so when you're having new people share, it is so much more than sharing for the first time to earn the prize in March. It is sharing for the first time, knowing that my conversation with Becky for her +1 versus Julia versus Sue are similar, but all different in their own way, because Sue and Julia have a different reason for sharing with their first. And how I got each one of them to silver is for their own personal gain, but my follow-up with each one of them is a little bit different. That's where leadership comes in. And it's, your customer, your team. And that's why I say focus on your first four, because even your first four is a lot of work. And we know that the beauty of this industry is, time is money, and it's the pockets of your time. Make sure that pockets of time that you're focusing on is giving you the best return. And the more you can do to strengthen your 70% by focusing on your 30, I promise you, the better long-term success and residual success you will see from your efforts versus trying to say everything to everyone, which really then ends up only reaching a handful of people. So Sarah, I hope that helps answer your question, but just temperature check her, show her how she can get her first month's paid for, but don't wait for her first month to be paid for to follow up. The minute you start seeing her have success and refer, reach out to her about it, talk to her about it, celebrate her for it, but then also show her the very next win quick, because it's no different than anyone who's lost weight, right? You lose your first 5 or 7 pounds, you're hungry for the next 10 or 15. And if the 10 or 15 aren't really showing up, then you're starting to question, is this really working, or did I just lose water weight and I'm getting lucky, right? Don't be hesitant to jump in there and continue to lead that conversation.
Does anybody else have a question before we let Blake get back to all of his very important meetings I'm sure that they have?
Well, if I wait too long, Rhonda will probably start to text me because I'm supposed to be on a call with Rhonda Shaw next.
Tell Rhonda, you're fine.
I'll just tell her Andrea, Becky, and Julia made me late.
Sorry, we commandeered him. Okay, we're gonna let Blake go. If y'all have any questions for Blake specifically, you can message them to any of us that are on this call. You can message him. Definitely let us know. If you're not Blake, please stay on the call. If you're Blake, tell Rhonda Shaw that we said hi and that we are gonna talk to. We'll talk to you later, Blake. But the rest of us are gonna stay on, and we're actually gonna figure out how to maximize everything he just said. So
awesome. Appreciate you guys. Appreciate the time. Let's have a great March. And more importantly, make sure March is setting up your April and May. If you guys need anything, again, just let the team know, and I'm happy to jump in and support, but it's great to see y'all, and let's have a good March. See you guys.
All right. Now that corporate's not on, now who has a question? Is there anything that you are actually holding back on that you're like, I'm not asking it while this person's on? Real fast, I want to make sure that we have any questions or anything that you felt like I need a little clarity here, and I didn't want to ask him because I kind of felt silly asking somebody this question. So is there anything that you felt like you need clarity on or that you want to dive into a little bit?
Hey, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Sorry, I have a lot of kids in the car. I would just say after 11 years, not a question, but his ability to explain the strategy behind the promotion and to point out chasing the carrot is not actually what we're promoting gut health, and the bonus is whatever that incentive might be. I just feel like that mindset and strategy has not always been the case. And I feel like that's a huge shift for the better. So I love his ability. He's involved in the strategy, but hey, when you're working for that this month, you're not doing it to earn the iPad. Like, I don't know, that's new to me in 11 years. So valuable. So not a question, but just like, I'm excited for that approach.
Yeah, I saw so many like heads nodding and like people like smiling big, like, yes, me too, me too. Okay, so I think that's what, like, when we were talking to him the other day, two things really stood out. Becky and I and a couple of other leaders were sitting up in a deck talking to him, and two things stood out. The one thing was that the fact that he's like, the iPad really isn't the point. I'm like, no, no, no. It's totally like what everybody's going for. I mean, if you've been here for more than a few years, you know that March is a huge month because we've done iPads before and people have won like, 4 of them, or we've done Apple Watches, and it's always a big thing. And I'm really, truly excited about the red light mask. Like all of that stuff. But we do tend to like if you haven't yet, probably part of your strategy was, I'm going to make sure my audience knows, hey, come in just the month of March. You can just add 6 customers, use your referral link and you can get this. And like, that was like the selling point, right? Is that for the month of March, come in, get your iPad, get your Apple Watch, and then maybe stay. Right? Does that feel familiar to anybody else, or am I the only person? Okay, good. I'm glad somebody else is nodding their head, because that's truly been my strategy in the past. And was honestly my strategy going into this week. But I think going, oh, what if I just focus on triplex and what that does, and what our compensation plan actually is, and like what our long-term, like what's kept the 30 plus of us that have been on this call here for however length of time you've been here, a lot of us for close to a decade, is those two things. It's the gut health, the true health benefits of the products, and the true like growth of the residual income of our compensation plan. Because we have people on our team who have not added people in 5 years and are still getting paid on what they did 7, 8 years ago, because those people are still buying their triplexes every single month, year after year. So because the products work, and that actually is the residual income. So that's what we should be selling. And I think what's interesting is that so often we have stopped selling that because we think, oh, I've been selling the same thing month after month. So this month there's a tweak on it, right? You can sell the exact same products with the exact same compensation plan, and you get to add something else to it, like whether it's the free shipping, or whether it's a bag of active combos, or it's the incentive of the prizes this month. You get to add another little twist on the end. But I love the fact that Blake puts it at the end. It's like, we still have our gut health products. Here's what they've done for so many people. And if you went on the cruise and you took one picture with one person who has a testimonial out there, that should be like part of the win of when we get together, whether it's Super Saturday or Leaders Retreat or convention or whatever we have coming up, retreats. I know Julia's team did an insane job with retreats. The second you take a picture with somebody and they have a story, that becomes a personal story for you to share with your audience. That is the biggest win on going to trips, I think, is showing the community, but then showing the individual of like, I have, like, I'm trying to think, like, I'm looking around, thing. Like, I have, Kristen McKee's story that now I can actually like say, this is my friend Kristen. We were on a cruise last week together. This is her story. This is my friend Allison. She, I think that was the first time you'd ever won a shopping spree, right, Allison? Even though like you've gotten really close before, whatever, like, this is fun. This is so exciting to get to do with somebody else. I just think the more you show up, and then you show up with other people on social, you're sharing the stories of the products, and then you're sharing the story of the business. That's one of the biggest wins that you can have right now. And then it's oh, and we're both going for a, red light mask this month. How fun. You can too. I will say incentives are fun for me. They are probably one of the biggest like draws for me. So if you're an incentives person, will you just drop it in the chat? Like, the second we have an incentive, the second I can have a graphic that I won something, the second I'm going after something I could afford but don't really want to, then I'm that girl. Like, if y'all don't know the story, I went after a shopping spree. That was my first year of Plexus. Yes, I went to Sapphire in those 9-10 months, but it was more fun to like earn the shopping spree in that same time period. So
I'm curious though, really quick, Andrea, jumping in. So I think some of us like incentives because what we really treasure is praise. And so I'm curious, like, Andrea will go after but I think Andrea, you're actually like me too. Like, it's totally for the praise. In fact, if there's an incentive and I'm not earning it, I'm more upset about like, oh my gosh, my team's not going to see me working hard for it. So I think that's another part of it. And I do think an incentive is a fun way to get praise, right? Like, it's one thing for me to add 6, I don't know, on a normal month, August. It's another thing for me to add 6 in March and have the announcement, and for my team to see I'm working just as hard as everyone else.
Yeah.
It's that I will work harder for praise.
Yeah. And that's what I think I mean, I really think it's the graphic and then the prize, like, right? Like, I get the graphic, but if y'all don't know, because I did go look it up, in back office, it tells you exactly what iPad you're getting, like there is up for grabs, which is like the best one right now, I think. There's 2 different Apple Watches, I think Series 10, but like 2 different sizes, whether you want the, larger size or the smaller size. And then the red light mask is a Therabody mask. It is valued at $600. Like if you go buy it on the internet right now, it is it's not like a no-name brand, like whatever. Like you can go look up this mask. I think it's called Therabody. But it's a $600 red light mask on the internet. So it's not like, we have had contests in the past that you're like, okay, so is this the one that like works or doesn't work? This is the one that works. And I just think it's fun. Y'all, I think it's one of the greatest things we a lot of times can't show. I wish I had a paycheck sometimes that I could just show on the internet and be like, this is how much money I'm actually making on a monthly basis. I think people would be like, I'm in, especially at like that senior gold ruby rank. I think that's the most impressive and the most like attainable, because it's a little more impressive than like gold, but it's not quite like senior ruby and emerald can feel a little unattainable. So if you're senior gold and ruby, high gold, whatever, I think that paycheck is actually the one that looks the best online. But if I could hold up a paycheck, it's one thing, but I can hold up an Apple Watch. I can hold up an iPad that my kid's playing on. I can hold up the red light mask in a funny, picture. As soon as we all get them, we're all going to be posting about them on social media. So I just think it's the most visual part of something we win. The cruise is a visual part of something we win. And when you sweep the convention contest, the party that we go to, or the boots, and the hat, and the jewelry, all that stuff that we're gonna earn, that's all like a visual representation of the paycheck that's in your bank account. A lot of times, I just think it's a really good visual. Okay, Sarah, did you want to add something?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I've never used these when I'm driving before. Okay, here's a question I have too while we're talking about this, something you and I have talked about in length. It's also utilizing, how is that used for, I'd love for you to give some examples too, how that's used for marketing your business to your audience. Not just that you earned it and not just saying, woohoo, Andrea earned an iPad or a red light, but how do we actually use that on the marketing side of our business for our potentials?
Yeah. I bet there's a couple of different options in here, and I would actually love to hear from, does anybody else have a way that I know my personal opinion on sharing incentive prizes, or, somebody added 1 or added 3 or earned whatever, earned a trip. Does anyone have a way that they really love seeing it, or that someone earning something and it being posted on social is what made you join them? Anybody? Okay. I'll tell you mine and then just unmute whenever you're. Oh, Julia said, I remember when I won an iPad 10 years ago, my kids were so excited. It was better than the car. That was their first piece of technology. And
Oh, sorry. I'll talk. Just ignore my Snuggie because I am in bed still wearing a Snuggie, but I've been working since 7 a.m. Perks of this business. I was just going to say, I'm not great at this now. And I mean, I'm just in a season, I'm going to be very transparent. Like, I'm looking back at like, not like what works, but I'm like trying to get back to the basics. Okay. Um, I have been working. I did take a nap too, but, okay. But honestly, after, I think that's such a great question, Sarah, because I'm asking myself so much now, like what would attract people now? But after I even wrote that, like to me, and this is just me, like graphics, I think I love for team pages, but not necessarily for my stories and in my page because I feel like graphics can look just like, I don't know, I would just scroll past it when I see other companies. However, I can visually remember the picture I put on social media 10 years ago. My kids were like, I mean, Nixon was, I guess, probably 7, and they're all excited holding an iPad. And I remember my post was, my kids didn't care that I want a car. They cared that I want an iPad that they could play Dora the Explorer on, like, or whatever they were playing back then. So I think in a way it's making it personal, and it's back to that whole pain point. Like my pain point back then was I couldn't afford an iPad. I mean, I really couldn't. My kids never had experienced that. So I think that might not be everybody's story, but I think the more personal and like how you can make that person that you're trying to cast this vision of like, oh, well, maybe I'll never win a car. Maybe like that might not interest them, but heck, I really like one of those red light masks, but my husband won't let me spend that money. Like that kind of thing. I don't know. That's all I'll say. I'll hide from my Snuggie now.
I think it's really important that we're individual when we post about it too. I think us posting about it, our own, You have to be posting about it from your perspective, exactly what Julia's talking about. I can't tell that story for Julia. Even if I announced it and said, Julia just won an iPad, it's so amazing. I'm not going to say, Julia's kids have never had technology. This is going to be so great for her family. That's weird for me to post, even if I knew it about her family, right? But I could say, like, one of my favorite things about this business is watching my friends have firsts and having, like, and knowing that because I shared and because Julia said yes to something she, resisted for a while, this has been a first for their family. And I can go into that because when I'm announcing that she's earned, let's just say, swept the contest, right? This is coming up. Convention contest is kind of one of the next things. Julia swept the contest. She can help you do it. If this is something you want, you still have plenty of time that you can join Julia. Message her right now and find out, like, how can I be a part of what you're doing? Especially if you earn the iPad, the watch, the red light mask here in the first like 2 to 3 weeks of the contest. Hey, Ivy just earned an iPad. Message her. She can show you how to. She did it in 1 week. She can show you how to do it, in 1 week as well, because you can. Do you know how much easier it is to help a brand new person earn that in 1 week with 6 people than it is for those of us that have been here for 5+ years to add 6 people in the first week? Like, it's a totally different thing. So I do think when you are sharing graphics of earned or whatever, I do think earned ones are really big. If you're doing the Melissa has added 5 people away from her iPad, that needs to be on the team page. That truly needs to be in the team page. Your audience doesn't need to see that you're like counting down to it as much, because what does that mean for them? That doesn't mean anything for them. It only means something for our pride, honestly, at the end of the day. Or like maybe they'll join me, this 1 month to help me earn something. But I really think that's where Melissa is showing her team that she's showing up. Melissa's, 5 people away, 4 people away, 3 people away. That is fun on the team page. I think when you're announcing something like Melissa has earned her Apple Watch, the girl loves doing her walks. If you've seen her showing up on her social media, she's getting out there and doing her steps. This is a fun way to upgrade the watch that she's already had. Those kind of things, she can help you earn it too. Julia said, I love when announcements are encouraging others and telling why joining your friend is a smart move. It should always, always, if you are posting for somebody else, if I am posting and saying, congratulations, Becky, it should be to encourage Becky's audience to message her. There should be something in it that's like, you're crazy if you haven't joined this girl yet. She's going to show you exactly how to do what she's just done. And so I really do think it's important that as we're earning these things, that the who you want the post to speak to is really, really obvious, that you are speaking to the audience. You're not just congratulating the earner. Congratulations stuff, I think, can go on team pages or private messages. I just don't think that's more for our, yay, we did something really great. Kind of what Becky was talking about. I want the graphic out there that my team knows I did the work too. But I think for our public Facebook and Instagram consumption, that is actually marketing for our potentials. Okay. A couple of things that were said, and if anybody has anything that is like a brain buster, please let me know on how to do this in the next couple of months or next couple of weeks. But one of the things that Brittany Howard, who spoke at the very end of our one meeting that we had on the whole trip, and we thought we were getting pirated and hijacked at the same time. So there was a little bit of a distraction happening as Brittany was talking. But one of the notes that I took as Brittany was speaking was that she said, if you want 6 people to join you this month, you need to send 60 messages. Now, I've had a few conversations, and I don't think Amber's on here anymore because she's in the car with family, but she was like, well, that means it's 700 and something messages a year. And I was talking to Sarah yesterday, and she was like, that's a lot of like just cold. Where do you get 60 people from? What if it's just 2 people a day or 4 people a day if you want to front load your month, which I actually think is really smart. And if you're like me and you've done nothing and it's the 3rd, then you might want to front load your month and do a lot of it starting today. But it's going back to people that you have had conversations with in the past. Okay, 2 schools of y'all. Some of y'all are newer and you're like, I'm starting fresh. You should be having conversations. If you polled every person on here who's a top level leader in our company, they would say the thing I wish I had done is message more people. I wish I had been more bold, and I wish I had messaged more people. So if you are new, I want to give you the wisdom of all of us that maybe feel like we did it a little wrong. And I want to ask you to be more bold and to message that other person that you think maybe doesn't need it, to just go all out if you are newer and you haven't touched most of your market. If you're like the rest of us and you have messaged 4,000 people over the last 11 years at some point in your business, I want to challenge you to go back to some of those people, to go back through and see what new relationships you've made that maybe in the last few years that you haven't reached out to about Plexus, and get two things: either bold about the ask or get intentional about the conversation. You're either going to get really intentional with the expectation that it will turn into a Plexus conversation at some point, or you're going to get really bold and just come out the gate saying, I want to do this with you. I don't want to go on another trip without you. I messaged a lot of people on the way home on the plane just saying, I don't want to go on another like Plexus fun trip without you. I want you to do this with me. It's people I've kind of like slowly kind of had conversations with, but like I'm going all in with a few people. So I really do want to challenge you. How difficult would it be for you to send 5 Plexus business messages today? Who would commit to 5 today? The third of the month. Okay. Ivy's already done 3. The best place to find all kinds of testimonials, Stephanie, is the table, which is our overarching team page, has a group called Gut Glam, which everybody in here has access to. You can go to Gut Glam, you can type in anything, you can see what the most recent testimonials were. That's a great place. And if you're on Julia's and L Rob's team, the Jewel Heist, I believe there's a customer testimonial page over there as well that they can highlight. I don't know they want to send everybody over there, but I do know that we have at least a couple of options if you need testimonials. If you're looking for a specific testimonial, you can go to Facebook. You can go to the search bar and type in perimenopause Plexus, and you can probably scroll through not very far and find a pretty good testimonial. So I really want to challenge people. Today should be the day that you're inviting as many people to the call tonight. What Brittany said is 60 people this month should garnish you, if you're having 60 good conversations, which is a lot. I wouldn't expect you to have them all today. But if you're having 60 conversations over the course of the month, you're going to have a lot of people say, no, thank you, not for me. That's great. Okay, so your 60 is now like what, 20? And these are conversations of people that you're actually going to continue to follow up with. Maybe 6 of those start, and they get their triplex this month. They get their, reset plus active or whatever. They get a couple of things this month and they get started with their product. 6 people. That's that incentive. Great. That's off the board. But and then out of those 6, 2 should add 1. You should be having a conversation with at least 2, all 6 of those people, and 2 of them should add their +1, and 1 of those people should go silver. So again, you're going to message 60 people over the month. At least 6 are going to join you as VIP customers because you've whittled down all of your no thank yous down to some maybes. Those are the people you're getting on the Monday and Thursday calls all month long. And out of those 6 people that join you as new customers this month, 2 of them should at least add 1 person as their accountability partner. And 1 of those 2 people should go silver this month. Do y'all see how those numbers work out? You cannot message 6 people and then go, well, none of them wanted to sign up. I didn't get my 6 people this month, but you didn't multiply that by 10. I'm curious, how many people do you think I don't think 60 is my number. I think I could probably message less people than 60 and probably get 6 new customers. So I'm curious, what do you think your number is? Like some of y'all are going to say more, like I'm going to have to message a lot more people than 60. Like I get no's, all the time. Like Stephanie says she's going to have to message 100 to get 6 new customers. I will say if she messages 100 people this month, what are the chances that she could get 6 new customers this month and probably continue to have conversations to get more people next month? And then those conversations, she'll have more boldness. She'll have more confidence in her business. And as she goes into May, June, and July, those numbers will, that 100 from this month will manifest in like June, July, August in crazy ways. That 60 to 90 day rule is so real. Okay, so Ivy's saying 70 to 90, 60 to 80. Allison, 40 to 50th. Allison's an insane recruiter. So I would say like that she actually has a lower number of people she needs to contact because she has that pitch down solid. She knows what she's doing. She knows where her cart is. She knows exactly what products she's encouraging them to buy. She knows what she starts most people on. She knows what questions she's already asking and what the answers are. She already knows what her overcoming objections are. So her number is lower. The more people you message, actually your number needs to be, it becomes lower, your threshold for number of people you need to message to get 6, because you have all of those things started to like really streamline. That's her system. Her system is, let me overcome objections. Let me send you exactly what I want you to do. Let me follow up with you. I already know my follow-up message. Does that feel right, Allison? Would you say like, yeah, it's because I already know exactly what I'm doing?
Oh,
Go
for
ahead.
sure. For sure. And because I'm doing all the exactly what to say and like all the books and all the things, like I'm honing that and I'm looking at what works and what doesn't. And like I just typed in the chat, like you were a big part of that. And initially when you were like, no, I know who's going to message those people when we hang up off this call. And I did. But it's been a lot of trial and error and learning and asking questions. And I've become a good question asker and I listen more than I talk, which is definitely a challenge, but
But it's a skill you have learned and you have
Mhm.
honed in. And I really think Allison's a great example of someone who's probably always been a really good recruiter, but her value of who she's recruited has just gotten better and better and better over the years, because she goes, oh wait, I know what question I don't want to ask. And I know what question doesn't matter if I ask it, because even if they give me the answer, this is actually the question I want to ask. And this is actually the person I want to go after for business. And this is the kind of people, this is the kind of objections I can overcome. Like, I'm sure a value objection is like, psh, you're going to tell me you don't have enough money for it. And I already know exactly what I'm going to say. And I would say the more, like Stephanie, when you have those 100 question conversations, even if this month you have 60 of them and next month you have 40 of them, whatever it looks like, the overcoming the objections will become so much easier that your last 40 will go so much better than your first 60. And for anyone who's messaging 40 this month, your first 20 will be really rough. Your second 20 will feel like, why wasn't I asking it like this? Or why wasn't I inviting them like this? Because it just will get easier. And I think the more consistent you get with it. If you haven't asked anybody to a Monday or Thursday call in a week or so, you're probably a little rusty. If you haven't asked them at all, you're super rusty. You're like, you got nothing. So I would just say start now and just be like, I'm going to invite 5 people to the call tonight. And I'm going to hope one of them shows up. Like, I'm going to have the conversations with enough people until one of them says yes. And then I follow up with them. I ask them how it was. Yeah, action begets action. You cannot earn the incentive, the increased paycheck, the confidence. You can't earn those things until you're actually willing to put the work in. And some of that work means people will tell you no. People will use terms that they don't understand, like pyramid scheme. People will say they don't have the money for it. They don't value it enough. And then you have to show up on your social media and explain the value. And I'm just gonna tell you, like, based on what one thing Blake said, the thing I'm really showing up for this month, which is probably not my strong suit, is products and comp plan. I can go incentive all day long, every day, because that is like love language for me. But if I go really hard every single day and I commit to talking about the products and our compensation plan, the things that are going to be here a year from now and 2 years from now and 11 years from now are our products and our compensation plan. And so if I speak into those things, the value of those things, the cherry on top is, or the sprinkles on top is the incentive this month. And that can change every single time. But the base of what we have is really, really important. Okay. Does anybody have a question before we jump off? Anybody, any question at all, any thought? It is not too small or silly, or I love all questions.
It's
I'm
not a
escaping
question.
my husband and my toddler, but I don't really have a question, but I just love that, like Blake, that they're doing these incentives for us, or the hooks. I've had a few people message me and be like, okay, how do I make $300 and that's been a few months. So with this, I've been going back and following up and saying, hey, you can still earn your $300 plus this month. You can earn a prize that I normally wouldn't buy myself, you know? So I love this incentive for that.
I love that. Christy, what were you going to say?
What has helped me a lot when I went to Gold School is having the mindset of that there's in these 60s conversations, people are going to be in different seats. And when you are able to recruit consistently, it's because you have people in different seats and you're moving them throughout different seats. And that has been a good visual for me.
Yeah, and what Christy's talking about is the seats. Like, I actually think it'd be really helpful if we had like a chart. I had this big giant calendar on my wall, and it'd be so great if it was like 12 seats across. And it's like, have you invited them to, Monday night call? Have you invited them to Thursday night call? Have you gotten on a Zoom with them? Have you gone over the compensation plan with them? Have you sent them this checklist? Have you, showed them how to share a cart? Once you've done those things, you're like moving them through the seats. It's like I've now moved Christy from 1 to 2, 2 to 3. Now she's at seat 6. She's about ready to go senior silver or whatever, because I'm moving her through the program. And sometimes it's moving them into becoming a customer. And sometimes it's once they're a VIP, it's moving them through to the senior silver to gold. What steps do they need to take? It might be really good for you to make a list of if you're going to reach out to 60 people this month, the first thing you want to invite them to is a Monday night call because it's tonight. The next thing you want to invite them to is a Thursday night call. Maybe you're inviting them to, a Saturday mastermind or that corporate does on products. Maybe it's inviting them to listen to a podcast specifically that maybe Jessica Heffley does about money, or that Brittany Howard does about building the business from scratch, or the Ambition Coalition does about overcoming fears. Like there are different podcasts that you might go, I'm going to send this to my potential customer because I want them to hear this. This is, there are 3 stories that I send to everybody. I send them a Probio 5 story, a Bio Cleanse story, and a Slim story, because I want them to understand the benefits of those 3 products individually. Whatever it is, you have a checklist and you start putting your 60 people, exactly what Christy said, through that checklist. Have I sent them this yet? Have I sent them this yet? Have I told them about them? If you are a part of the larger group, there's we're doing, what is it? Move It March. So have you invited them to Move It March, which is a group? Maybe your group is doing one individually. You need to invite them to that. Have you invited them to your customer page? Gut Glam is open to everybody listening. So have you invited them to Gut Glam and let them go in and search for their own stories in there? So I want to challenge you, exactly what Christy just said. Figure out what your list of like maybe 6 to 12 chairs are that you want to move them through, and then start your list of all of your people. And then check mark. I've added Ivy to this. I've sent her the testimonial on this. I've invited her to Gut Glam. She's accepted the invitation. Those are all different seats. And those are all different conversations. And that allows you to not be like, so you ordered yet? So your cart's still sitting there. You going to order it now? Like that. It's so hard to have that follow-up conversation, right? But what if it is like, hey, I just saw that you haven't used your cart yet. I want to make sure that I sent you this story about Triplex. Hey, I noticed that you haven't gotten ordered yet. And I really want to, what's your biggest objection right now? And then you can have those conversations because you know exactly how to overcome them. Okay. It is 1 o'clock here in Texas. And, we are going to sign off, and I cannot wait to see all of you and your potentials on his first Monday night call. And if we're going to ask him to do it again, right? Okay. Talk to you later. Bye.